You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Unsealed, the official podcast of Wings of the Eagle. I'm Christopher Manti, your host, hopefully your brother in Christ. The only thing that really matters. But I do want to come on today because, number one, tomorrow is our normal day to do the podcast, but it's Thanksgiving Day here in the United States, so family time. And I felt like we could have maybe waited till Friday, but maybe I really can't. Because a lot of things are going on and are in fluid motion in terms of this issue about UAPs and recovery programs and revelations and what that could mean for the world, but particularly, obviously, our focus here is on the Christian church, the Christian worldview. Those of us who actually don't side with most of the UFO world, which is very humanistic, atheistic, new age-ish, the universe is God, the Joe Rogan type. No offense. To know that there is a God and he is your father and that he loves you and that he sent Jesus to die in your place because he wants to live with you forever. That's called the gospel. And he's superior to everything that we might encounter in life. And there's nothing that he doesn't know about. And there's nothing that Jesus himself did not have a hand in creating or create. So any creation that we might encounter, it's a very real result of the Lord. So we can't lose sight of that, regardless of what we might think. And obviously we want to hear from you if you have any thoughts or opinions or whatever they're welcome. Just go ahead and type it in at wherever you're watching this. But there's this thing that keeps popping up, and yesterday, I just saw it yesterday. It must have been just a day or two ago. The biggest podcast in the world, Joe Rogan, had on Mr. David Grush. David Grush, if you don't know, is the main driver, a whistleblower from a former government employee up until a couple months ago. And he was one of the main folks who gave testimony in July in front of the Congress under oath about things that he personally knows about and heard about. It got interviewed many witnesses to certain things that we are not admitting to publicly, and to the point where he tried to get information he was denied. And it turns out that there is a secret program going on, and it's not necessarily what most of us believe, which is it's all this stuff that we're seeing flying around is either made up or fake or just American equipment, and they're just super secret about it. That's not the case. That's the revelation, number one. It's not our stuff. There is a program to try to make it our stuff, to try to study it, to get to the bottom of what it is. That's true. And so anyway, David Grush is in a position to know a lot of these things. And so, of course, he caught the, discredit him thing and the yada yada. None of it has stuck because he just came across as very credible. And he kind of had a personal moment where, if you listen to especially yesterday or the podcast with Rogan, is he's like, I'm not going to grow into an old man and die and not do something with this information. Because he could have. He said he could have just kept his mouth shut, got along with it, just forgot about it, made, rose up the ranks, been very high in the government and intelligence services and things like that. He could have in the Air Force, all that, but he gave it up because he felt it was worth it. And so that's to be applauded. Anyways, I suggest you, obviously, if you have time, to go check out that Joe Rogan podcast. It's like 3 hours long. It's almost 3 hours. But a lot of it is really, really good information from a guy who is trying to do it the right way, not just do the right thing, but respect the very real implications of revealing this information. And not just for him, but if it were to come out in a big way, there are consequences to that. Not the least of which is actual, the thing you hear all the time, the excuse or the reason, why the government doesn't just come out and say or reveal stuff is because of quote unquote national security. Everything's national security. Everything's classified. Everything's redacted, right? Because it's national security. And those two words cover absolutely anything at any time. And that's good enough. That's been used for literally 80 years now. 80 years. For this topic. And so I'm telling you guys, 80 years ago, we didn't have drones. We didn't have stealth technology. We didn't have vehicles that could do what the things that they had back then, or they caught, or they recovered, or they were studying. Not our stuff. Never been our stuff. And so to just admit that would be a world-changing event. It would be even just mentally, right? Just to come to the understanding that, something else is actually in our world with us, and maybe they're not nice, and maybe they mean us harm, or they're going to force their whatever it is, whatever the intelligence is, whatever the non-human element of it is, make demands. Like, how would we handle that? Or maybe, Russia or China, who have their own programs, are going to come out first and spill the beans because they think it's advantageous for them on the battlefield, or to gain control or to gain a upper hand on America somehow, because that's all they're focused on. And so anyway, all these things would happen, but apparently, so many things are out now for various reasons, whether it be whistleblowers coming out, leaked videos, confirmations from the government, from the Department of Defense, and it's just to the point to end. If you combine all that with, and probably because of the very good technology that average people have to find information, to record information, to communicate with each other, that it's kind of, the jig is up, and now it's just a matter of how the truth is disclosed. That's why we have this term disclosure. Now, I've felt really strongly, for whatever reason, about going on about this ASAP, is because you have many, many changes happening right now, and many of these central figures are using terms like uncontrolled or uncontrolled or controlled disclosure. When they say controlled disclosure, they're talking about typical, the way government wants to have complete control over the narrative, right? I don't care if it's like politics, or it's military stuff, or intelligence stuff. The guys in the know want to always be in control of the information, release what they want, when they want, with a plan. That's controlled, right? On this date, we will say this. On this date, we will do that. In a year from now, we'll have this. In 5 years, we'll do this. That's controlled. That's, if they get, from their perspective, the security of it would be maintained or protected as best as possible with this plan. Okay. Now There's a lot of moving parts in that. Who decides? Who is actually going to be disclosing stuff? Is this the whole government? Is this all the military, all the CIA? We're talking about these private aerospace companies that are intimately involved, which now we have names: Lockheed Martin, and I'm sure Raytheon, I'm sure others. But and now again, go listen to this interview with Grush. He drops a lot of these things. But again, it's not like he's the first one saying it. Up till now, it's been like, well, it's probably this. We have this document on this. We have this other guy claiming this, or this person who won't name himself is saying this. But all the information now is coming out very consistent. It's all agreeing. And again, it's not illogical. It's logical. But we're to the point now where every single day we have actual, call UAPs what you want, physical objects interfering and invading what's supposed to be secure airspace of the most secure nation with the most powerful military in the history of Earth. And they're just doing what they want when they want. So they're kind of fed up, especially the guys who were flying the planes and at the missile silos and on the aircraft carriers. And on the ground, the grunts, the ones who are actually fighting on the in Iraq or whatever, and seeing these things in the air right where they are. Hey, this can't be here. They might start shooting. Who knows what they can do? So yeah, that's a problem, and it's not stopping. It just keeps going and going and going. So we're reaching this like a critical mass, okay, where you can't hide it anymore. So what is going to come out? The biggest, apparently, from the government point of view, and when I say the government, like we talked before about on this podcast, we're talking about the Department of Defense, the Pentagon, and the intelligence, all the different tentacles of intelligence, most importantly, the CIA. And why? Oh, the CIA. I know they're blamed for everything, but there's a reason why the CIA was invented right after Roswell happened. There's a reason why the Department of Energy had all this stuff under their classifications. There's a reason why all these things happen. By the reason why the Air Force was invented right after Roswell, by the way. And I'm not saying anything about Roswell. I'm just saying these things are not coincidences. They happen for a purpose. And from a Christian worldview, if there's going to be what their biggest fear is, which is uncontrolled disclosure. In other words, they don't have control of the narrative. They're not releasing when they want. You're not getting spoon-fed from the Pentagon or the CIA or Lockheed Martin, but from Russia or China or somewhere else. Maybe the NHI, non-human intelligence, whatever that ends up being. Maybe they decide to push forward and they're going to make themselves known. And it's not up to you anymore, Americans, governments, any government, right? That's uncontrolled. That's uncontrolled. And so anyway, it seems like all these parts and moving parts here are moving very quickly towards sometime at the end of this year and beginning of next year, major events. Okay, we don't know. We know Bible events. You should know if you listen to Wings of the Eagle and this podcast or End Time Church. By the way, as you see below, we have resources for you if you're interested in the craziest stuff in the Bible or stuff that's mysterious like the rapture or the millennium. Go to those addresses down below and there's courses on them. We even have a church that we meet several times a week to actually do the church thing. Anyway, endtime.church. But what is this obsession with, controlling this, and why now? And okay, first off, I see Bond Servant here. Give me 1 sec, Bond Servant, and then I'll get to you. Thank you, by the way, for liking and sharing wherever you're watching this. Much appreciated. And necessary. as we've said the past couple of months already, there is legislation that happens every year called the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act. It's basically how it's what funds the military of the United States every year, where the money goes, what if there's any changes in the law for this year, what's spent where, who gets it, etc. So because of all this, the whistleblower situation, the disclosure decision may be happening, whatever, like them or not, you've got a bipartisan group led by Chuck Schumer in the Senate with Marco Rubio. Those are the Christian Gillibrand too. It's Republicans and Democrats. They've got together and they wrote language into the NDAA. If you know how laws work in the United States, the Senate and the House both have to pass the same version. Obviously, they have to say the same thing. They both have to vote yes, and then the president signs it. Then it's official. Okay. The Senate's already passed it. It happened like 2 months ago, I think. And part of it is, go look up the Schumer amendment or the UAP amendment. There's stuff in there that just flat out says any non-human craft, non-human intelligence, any stuff, any contractors, private companies that it's our property, it's eminent domain now. The U.S. government will seize control of it, and we're going to report it. It's going to come out. You're not allowed to go around Congress anymore, and which is what has been happening, to get away with billions of dollars in fraud, to fund your stupid secret programs and not tell us about it. That's already passed the Senate. Done deal. It's in the House now. Well, not now because they went home for Thanksgiving break or whatever. I think they're coming back next week. What Grush said on the Rogan podcast, how important this is to pass, as is, because there is some pressure from the Pentagon, and especially with two representatives in the House, both Republicans, I believe, who want to kill this and will not, we're told, vote on it as is because of this amendment about UAPs, disclosure, eminent domain, the program being revealed. And Mike Rogers is one of them. And oh my gosh, Mike, help me out. Mike Turner. Mike Turner's from Ohio. Mike Rogers from Alabama. Turner is on the Intelligence Committee, and Rogers is Armed Services. Okay, so that's where the Armed Services is Pentagon, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Intelligence is CIA. Those are the two roadblocks, and these two corrupt, they are self-serving bleeps are doing everything to stop it, and they're not going to vote on it in its current form. And if they gut it, if they kill this part of it and rip this section out, there's going to be a problem. This is the legal way. This is the way Grush and the other people who are coming out of the government, the whistleblowers, are saying, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way and then proceed. Well, guess what? If we don't even get here, if we don't get to this place, forget Arrow and all that stuff. By the way, Arrow seems to be a complete mess. The guy who's leading it's leaving, and nobody knows who's going to replace him. And that's, again, Arrow's part of the Defense Department. So it's not like, and they're trusting themselves to self-report. That's a whole nother episode. To report wrongdoing on themselves, which of course is stupid. It's never going to happen. That's human nature. Anyways, so there's that. It's potentially held up. So I don't want to say pray against it. but continued secrecy and keeping things from the public and from the Congress itself. So in other words, they're shredding the constitutional system because they think this is too important to reveal. They'd rather literally destroy the country. The country is gone and dead. They don't care, which is ironic because it's all in the name of national security. Well, guess what? You done destroyed the country because you broke every rule we got. All kinds of laws. But the whole 3 tiers of, the American system, the Congress and the civilians are supposed to be in charge of the military. That's the way it goes. But they say no. Right. Anyway, so the whole fabric's just going to rip apart if this doesn't go through. So if it's an uncontrolled disclosure situation, it's much more likely to be that uncontrolled way if it doesn't pass. So I just want you all to know that. And they have to vote on it before the end of this year. So we've got about a month left. They're in session, from next week right till the week before Christmas. So that's it. Those couple weeks, those 3 or 4 weeks. And then we'll see what happens. And it could be a really, really big deal. Here's a source from within Congress has revealed that Mike Turner and Mike Rogers have an agreement to block the UAP Disclosure Act from passing in the House in its current form. They plan, this is I'm reading someone else's statement, so forgive the language. They plan on doing an abortion of the key parts of the act that would compel companies like Lockheed Martin to reveal UAP reverse engineering programs to Congress. The agreement between them also includes the removal of Representative Tim Burchett, who is an advocate for UAP disclosure to the public, from his seat in Tennessee during the next election cycle. Basically, they're going to primary Tim Burchett, who is if you watch that hearing from July, he was the country speaking guy from Tennessee with the glasses and sharp dude, conservative Republican. He's like, I've had enough of this, yada yada. This is all going to come out, and he calls the Pentagon war pimps. I mean, he's serious. Anyway, so this is all part of their agreement. Apparently, gut the thing, make sure Burchett is kicked out. I'm like, you can't get any more corrupt than that. You just can't. It's gross. Here's one thing I did want to alert you to, as far as controlled disclosure versus uncontrolled. There's a guy from the UK who's been doing this for many years in terms of this disclosure thing. It says, there was a conference on Friday called the Soul Conference, SOL. Grush helped put this together with, oh boy, I don't want to name drop here. Anyway, you guys can go find out about it. These are folks who wanted to come out responsibly. Basically, they know the truth, but they wanted to come out responsibly through the right channels. Chris Mellon, Gary Nolan, who's the super genius scientist guy. Anyways, all these guys did this, and then from the conference, the big takeaway to one of these folks was that it's too late. In other words, to have controlled disclosure. It's too late. This is really happening, and people need to get prepared. That's the quote. That's ominous, okay? And especially these are people for the most part who have no Christian worldview. They have no idea of God or God's love, or that He's the creator of whatever these non-human intelligences are. I mean, and potentially this other intelligence is artificial. Okay, we're talking about, like, now there's a lot of talk bubbling up about AGI, not just AI, but AGI. AGI is artificial general intelligence. In other words, human level, to do tasks, functions, and thought as a human being would do. And when we reach that threshold, call it what you want, singularity, whatever, that would be a major problem, apparently, with this whole situation. Okay. Anyway, it's happening. We need to be prepared. So this is what they're freaking out about. As Christians, we can't freak out about it. But anyway, the point is this intelligence that's not human could be artificial. It could be a future, version of what we create now. It could be future us, it could be future people, or it could be another creature that God made, or a creature that was genetically engineered by something. Right? We don't have those answers right now, but we do know that there is literal stuff. And I wanted to read one more thing from Chris Mellon, who was, I forget what his former title was. He was like number 1 or 2 or 3 at the Pentagon. Deputy director of whatever. Here's he just wrote a piece today, or was released this morning. And I want you to hear this. Especially if you're still on the, if you want to poo-poo this whole thing or deny that these are real, or they're just all demons, or they're all incorporeal, like spirit, not physical things. That it's all just a deception somehow. And it could be a deception, but the physical things part is real. Here's what Chris Mellon, who literally worked in the DOD and saw this program, says. And this is right now. Current intelligence collected by the United States indicates, now this is just our United States centric U.S. military information, okay? Take it, that's what it's talking about. Current intelligence collected by the United States indicates that our military is encountering intelligently controlled solid objects invading restricted military airspace, sometimes even flying in formation and on an almost daily basis. Okay? This is not one incident from 2014. This is not one incident from 2008. This is daily basis. Solid objects intelligently controlled, not by us. Invading restricted military airspace on almost daily basis. Many of these objects are emitting radiation in the 1 to 3 and 8 to 12 gigahertz range. If you watch the the Skinwalker Ranch TV series, you'll see that how they actually are picking up some of these gigahertz radiation signals. It's real. It's not made up. This guy is not loony. These things are actually doing this. And these are frequencies that we humans don't use for communications. Radiation in the 1 to 3 and 8 to 12 gigahertz range. Multiple credible reports indicate that UAP have rendered segments of our nuclear deterrent inoperable. Do you know what that means? I know of at least 1 or 2 things that he's talking about. There's documented proof that a UAP, even over decades, okay, not yesterday, decades ago in the 70s, shut off American nuclear missile silos. They came to the base, they shut down the missiles, and they left, and then they turned them back on. And that's just one time. I know there are many others. There's a whole book called UFOs and Nukes. It details all this. Okay. The multiple credible reports indicate UAP have rendered segments of our nuclear deterrent inoperable. In other cases, they are jamming radars on fighter aircraft. Nobody can jam radars on fighter aircraft. And by the way, that's a hostile action. We also have multiple cases of near mid-air collisions and cases involving serious injuries to military and civilian personnel. Therefore, as much as we need and want scientific investigations, the government cannot be permitted to divest itself of the UAP issue. In other words, they can't just put it on the side and say, not our problem. I don't know what it is, but it's no big deal. That's a lie. Whatever this is, whatever these solid objects are, whatever the intelligence is flexing on the most powerful military in history, saying you can't do nothing about us. Is that a problem or is it not? Okay, I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm talking about a potential adversary with technology that renders every weapon you have meaningless. There's a thing called this. I think Grush talked about this. I think the social contract exists between the citizens of any country, let's say the United States, and its military and the government. The government and the military, the contract on their side is we will do everything we can to keep you safe, to protect you from being attacked by enemies, from foreign powers, from somebody who's not us. But they can't. Now, that's the bottom line. Okay. And this is what, if we go into this, if disclosure is going to happen, it depends just how it's going to happen. It might take a year, it might take longer, or for other things I've heard, and again, try to vet as best I can to tell you guys, is it may be completely revealed within 12 months. So you say, well, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? People are ripe for deception. The church is ripe for deception. We can't even get over Donald Trump. He's an antichrist figure. How are we going to do this thing and get out without being deceived? We're not. Von Servant says, something I find interesting is Elon Musk and his latest rocket, for example, never hear of UAPs hanging around those. Oh, wait a minute. There's our friend Tiki. There's video of that, actually. The one that blew up a year or two ago. There was a UAP right near it right before it blew up. And this latest one, just didn't something happen to it? They couldn't get it off the ground? So, yeah. That's part of the issue, though, too, from what the literature on this is, this intelligence is not okay with private aerospace doing what governments can do, like Elon Musk. He can send his own rockets. He can send his own satellites. He can do his own super experiments. He can put billions of dollars, behind something to, try to out somebody or something. Apparently that's not cool with them. And lasers also, I'll just put that out there, lasers. They don't like lasers. Or that there's something to it, that some kind of breakthrough as far as the technology goes, where apparently humans are going to make a giant advancement with lasers. I don't know. I'm just going to leave it there. The latest one did blow up. Yep. Yeah, the video I'm talking about was from the last one that blew up. When was that? Like a year or two ago, right? Yeah, go. I'm sorry, I can't find it right this second, but our brother Tiki has put that out there. You slow down, you get a frame, and it zips right by the rocket pad. Anyway, guys, okay. There's so much more that could be said. I don't want to bore you. I don't want to get into all the nitty gritty necessarily today. And obviously there are other things happening in the world, but this is going to rock everything. Everything that can be shaken will be shaken, right? That's what God promises. And that's what's going to happen. When he says everything, that means everything. I don't think we can be comfortable in our little, corner of the world, thinking it's all about something it's not. God is serious about the Great Commission. He is serious about shaking everything. And he's serious about having a church that's ready for him. that's prepared, that knows and really does trust him above everything and rely on him above everything, above our governments, above our missiles, above our money. Because I gotta believe that, again, just speaking for my country, it's no way is it true that the American church is relying on God. We have no idea what that means, basically. Okay. I mean, there are exceptions to everything, but the amount of money we have and military hardware and social nets, to save you from this and that, any kind of hardship, not any kind, but you know what I mean, guys, right? We don't really rely on God. And so you would think that this church in the Western countries and America are going to need a incredible shaking to shake loose and to really serve Jesus and be ready for him. And as we know, again, if you listen to this ministry at all, it's not about us anyways. We know that prophetically, the Iranian government, the current ones, are going to attack the Middle East soon in a way that the Bible describes as unanswerable. You can't resist it. It's a weapon, a great sword will be so powerful and so effective that nothing can be done. Okay. What's that about? I think we maybe got to think about that more. And maybe it means, does that just mean the United States must be gone because they can't conquer anything with us there? Maybe not. But if we do have to not be there or be ineffective, then now we potentially can see with this massive, guys, we're talking about, if there's something that comes out in an uncontrolled way and regular citizens are so freaked out, civil war will break out. Mass looting, mass lawlessness, just because they're freaking out about aliens. Even if nothing actually happens, the societal fabric is just ready to go. You know that. You can feel that. And if something really major ends up happening, here we go. Okay. And so anyway, when I say prepare, when we say preparation, when disclosure and be ready, and it's too late to control this stuff, then that's the Lord at work. So lean into him, right? Press into him on this. We're going to need to get serious. Bondservant, do you ever check out the ISS feed? I don't. The International Space Station, ISS, always lights or orbs showing up. I totally believe it. It's right. I mean, this has gone on the whole darn time, right? Since we started sending up astronauts, they were seeing stuff there before satellites. Yes, God is serious. Makes one consider the depth of meaning on signs in the sky. Yeah, doesn't it? And on the earth and under the earth, right? Those are some of the words we are told also. I would think it's wise to not assume, even if this disclosure starts coming out and we're told it's aliens from another universe or a galaxy or whatever, don't assume anything. Doesn't mean they're from another galaxy. They could be from right here. And I don't mean heavenly dimension necessarily, right? Like spiritual play. I'm thinking like it could be right here on the earth or in the oceans. You think, so what, right? Like my kids say, so what? So what if this is, how does that change my life? Okay. If we can't forward think that, if you can't extrapolate that to how that would affect everything, I don't know what to tell you. And certainly, of course, it would be a crushing blow to the church. And I mean the church worldwide, every denomination, because they're going to, first thing is, there is no God. He didn't tell us about this, or God created other beings that are superior to humans, therefore the Bible can't be true. Jesus' substitution on the cross doesn't mean anything because, okay, these other things are here now. Do they have souls? And right, all these things, it's just going to collapse. And it's largely because, we haven't been seeking God on it. And when we see these things that he's allowing, to make sure we're on the right page with him. All right, guys, I'm going to have to wrap this up. Bondservant says, in my humble opinion, Christians need to slim down materially. I was like, whoo, tell me to go on a diet? Slim down materially and be ready for anything. Be secure in their witness. I mean, that's wise advice. Regardless, when you say slim down materially, America's not going to like that, bondservant. We like to accumulate stuff. A lot of stuff. So it could be a problem. But we may get there. And be faced with some hard choices. All right, guys. That's it. I hope this has been a blessing to you. We are 100% brought to you by your giving. Please go to wingsoftheeagle.com/donate to give to this ministry for this podcast. By the way, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, whatever, everywhere you find them. Just type in unsealed, and share it with somebody if you will. And again, give if this has been a blessing to you. Follow me on X right there. You see it, Manti4. I try to only share stuff that's relevant and, as far as I could tell, true. So again, we're in this together. We just got to be ready for what's coming, and we're not. So there. Okay, that's it. Love y'all so very much. Thanks for participating. Thanks for watching and listening. And again, thanks for sharing this in advance. Until next time, this is the Unsealed Podcast, the official podcast of Wings of the Eagle. God bless you.